Hey there, welcome to Sci-Fi Dimension. You can hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications to join us on new adventures. If you're ready, let's dive in. The orbital station floated in silence against the black canvas of space, its segmented arms stretching like frozen clock hands around the gas giant below. The planet's storms churned in lazy spirals, clouds folding into themselves with flashes of lightning so large they could have powered a city. Inside the station, though, the atmosphere was much less majestic. It was nervous, jittery, like the place itself was holding its breath. Entire sections of the docking ring had been emptied of casual traffic, security patrols doubled, even the vendors in the bazaar had closed their shutters, which was the kind of thing that only happened when panic outweighed profit. She walked through the central corridor, tall and composed, every step echoing with the soft hiss of boots on alloy plates. To most eyes she appeared human, 2 arms, 2 legs, a figure framed in dark leather-like armor that caught the station lights with muted reflections. But the details broke the illusion. The way her ears arched upward and tapered into fine, elegant points, like carved ivory. The sharp precision in her gaze, as though her eyes were built to measure not just faces but intentions. People whispered her name as if speaking it too loudly might summon storms. Someone swore they'd seen her vessel eat a smaller ship whole. Another insisted she had melted a soldier simply by looking at him too long. Rumors carried themselves on the recycled air. Every door she passed opened late, hesitantly, as though even the station's automated systems were reluctant to displease her. Civilians pressed themselves flat against walls, averting their eyes as if staring at her directly would invite some cosmic misfortune. Security personnel gripped their weapons too tightly, the strain showing in their knuckles. Children, half curious and half terrified, peeked around their parents' legs before being dragged away. She ignored them all, her face cool and expressionless, a mask she had worn for so long it had fused with her features. Except, of course, for the human who didn't know better. "Those things pick up interstellar radio?" he asked, leaning lazily against a support beam as she approached. His gaze flicked toward her ears, not with fear, but with something dangerously close to amusement. "I mean, if I turn the right dial, could I catch late-night talk shows from 3 systems over?" Her stride faltered, just for a second, but it was enough. He noticed, of course he did, because his grin widened like someone who had just poked a sleeping beast and was delighted it hadn't eaten him immediately. She narrowed her eyes, intending to silence him with a glare that could curdle steel, but he only pushed himself upright and fell into step beside her as if he had every right to do so. "You must be lost," she said evenly, her voice the kind that sliced through the hum of machinery. "Oh, constantly," he replied. "But that's a lifestyle choice, not a navigational issue." She did not dignify that with a response. She adjusted her pace, subtly quickening it, but he matched her without effort. Her senses, sharp as they were, told her no weapon was hidden on him, no hostile intent simmered beneath his relaxed posture. He was just there. Unafraid. Around them, the corridor bent into a vast observation deck, walls curving outward into transparent panels that revealed the planet below. Lightning crackled across the atmosphere, veins of light that painted the human's face in intermittent flashes. He gestured toward it with a casual flick of his hand. "Beautiful, isn't it? Though I'm guessing you've seen so many worlds that by now they all look like slightly different flavors of soup." Her jaw tightened. "Do you have nothing better to do?" "I tried napping. Didn't work. The bunk squeaks like an old star freighter. So now I'm here, pestering you." "Congratulations, you're my entertainment for the evening." The absurdity of it almost made her laugh, and that realization irritated her more than his words. No one spoke to her like this. Not admirals, not politicians, not the trembling masses that scurried at her approach. Fear was her constant shadow. And here was this man, shattering the script, replacing the terror with something else entirely. She stopped walking, turned toward him. "Do you understand who I am?" "Of course," he said. "You're the woman with the best ears on the station. Probably in the quadrant." Makes me jealous, honestly. Mine are just boring little half-circles. He tugged lightly at his own ear with mock regret. For a moment she considered ending the conversation in the most direct manner possible. A flick of her wrist, a release of energy that would silence him forever. It would be easy. Expected. But instead, against her own instincts, she asked, "Why aren't you afraid?" He tilted his head, as though the question genuinely puzzled him. Well, fear takes effort. Muscles tense, heart races, breathing gets all erratic. Exhausting, really. I'd rather save my energy for running, in case you actually try to kill me. Until then, he spread his hands. Why bother? That caught her off guard. Logic wrapped in nonsense, nonsense wrapped in humor. She found herself staring at him, trying to peel back his words to see what lay beneath. But he gave nothing away except that easy, infuriating grin. A pair of guards hurried past them, saluting her stiffly, eyes darting nervously toward the human before they disappeared down the next hall. The alien woman resumed walking, more to end the conversation than anything else, but the human followed again. You're persistent, she said. I'm charming, he corrected. You're annoying. Those aren't mutually exclusive. A laugh escaped her before she could stop it. Just a short exhale, almost silent, but it echoed in her ears like a betrayal. She covered it quickly, clearing her throat, straightening her spine. Yet his eyes caught it, and he stored it away like a victory. They reached a lift, its doors sliding open with a reluctant hiss. She stepped inside. He followed without hesitation. You're not invited, she said flatly. Good thing I'm terrible at social cues, he said, pressing the button for the same deck she was headed to. She studied him again, closer this time. He was ordinary by every visible measure, short-cropped hair, plain clothes with a utility jacket that had clearly seen better years, boots scuffed at the toes. No insignia of rank, no badge of authority, no trace of the fear that hung like smoke around everyone else. Just, human. Utterly and confoundingly human. The lift hummed as it descended. Silence stretched between them, punctuated only by the faint groan of metal as the station adjusted its orbit. At last he broke it. So. Do you drink coffee, or is that beneath terrifying alien warlords? She almost smiled again. Almost. The lift doors opened, and she stepped out, leaving his question unanswered. But as the doors slid closed behind her, she realized with irritation that she had not told him to stay away. And that, more than anything else, unsettled her. The docking bay was alive with the mechanical heartbeat of the station. Servos whined as cranes moved cargo crates the size of houses, drones buzzed in swarms like metallic bees, and the occasional burst of compressed air hissed from vents in the walls. Ships from all corners of the sector nestled side by side, clunky freighters with hulls patched like quilts, sleek corvettes polished to mirror shine, and one vessel that looked as though it had stepped directly out of a myth. It loomed at the farthest edge of the bay, separated from the rest by an invisible line no one dared cross. Its surface shifted in strange ripples, black metal that wasn't quite metal, glimmering faintly as though stars had been trapped inside it. It made every other ship look like a child's toy by comparison. The alien woman stood before it, silent, her expression unreadable. Workers kept their distance, pretending to busy themselves with other tasks while sneaking quick, fearful glances her way. None of them wanted to get close enough to confirm whether the rumors were true, that her ship hummed as though alive, or that it could repair itself from any wound. The silence around her should have been complete. It usually was. But then came a voice, casual and utterly out of place. So, does it come with cup holders, or do you just balance drinks on that shifting void stuff? She turned her head slowly, her ears catching the sound before her eyes confirmed it. He was standing not far away, leaning against a crate, arms crossed. His grin was the same, that maddening blend of curiosity and amusement. He didn't even look at her first, his eyes were fixed on the ship, like a child eyeing a forbidden toy. "You again," she said, her tone cool as the void outside. "I live here," he said. "Well, technically, I sleep here, eat here, fix things that break here. So I guess we're both just neighbors now." He gestured toward her ship. "Though I'll admit, you've got the better ride. Mine doesn't even start without me kicking it twice." She ignored him, striding up the ramp that extended from the living vessel. The surface shifted subtly beneath her boots, acknowledging her weight like water firming under ice. She expected him to remain behind, finally pushed back by a boundary he could not cross. Instead, his footsteps followed, clumsy but insistent. "You can't be serious," she said without turning. "About what?" "About stepping onto my ship uninvited." "Why not?" "It looks roomy. Besides, if you were going to kill me, you'd have done it already. Right?" The audacity of him, no, the sheer idiocy, pulled a laugh from her chest before she could choke it down. He froze mid-step, delighted. "Did you just laugh?" he asked, as though he'd just witnessed a comet streak through the sky. "No. You did. It was quick, but I heard it. Kind of like static crackling in an old comm." Her ears flushed with a heat she despised. "Leave." He didn't. Instead, he stepped onto the ramp, which groaned beneath him in a way it hadn't for her. The ship didn't like him. That much was obvious. Its surface shifted, forming ridges under his boots like hackles rising. He looked down, frowned. "Huh. I think it's judging me. I get that a lot." "It doesn't trust you," she said. "Story of my life. But you trust me, right?" He winked. Her silence was answer enough. Inside, the ship was nothing like the utilitarian corridors of the station. The walls pulsed faintly, veins of light threading through surfaces that were neither metal nor organic, but something in between. The air smelled faintly of ozone, of storms bottled in a cage. He whistled softly, turning in a slow circle. "Wow. My room's got a leaky vent and a mattress that smells like fried coolant. You've got, well, whatever this is. It's like living inside a starfish." She arched an eyebrow. "Starfish? Earth creature. Harmless. 5 arms, regenerates when you cut them off. Not that I've tried. I don't go around mutilating sea life for fun." She stared at him. "Why are you still here?" "Because you're fascinating," he admitted without hesitation. "Everyone else treats you like you're a bomb that might go off at any second. But you talk, you walk, you breathe just like we do. Except with better ears. So yeah, I stick around. Someone has to ask the questions everyone else is too afraid to." She folded her arms. "And what do you expect to gain from these questions?" "Entertainment. Maybe enlightenment. At the very least, a good story to tell over bad drinks." She almost smiled again. Almost. The ship suddenly rumbled beneath their feet, lights pulsing in warning. She felt it before he did, the subtle tremor in the air that signaled an incoming threat. Her vessel was already awake, already preparing. Panels slid back from the walls, revealing nodes that crackled with energy. "What's going on?" he asked, eyes wide. "Something unfriendly," she replied. "Define unfriendly." "Because my definition is the cafeteria running out of pudding cups. Yours might be a little more intense." She moved to the front chamber, where the vessel's mind projected images directly onto the walls. A swarm of drones, hostile, sharp-edged, approaching fast from the planet's far side. Predators built of steel and code, their movements too precise to be random. He followed her, still talking. "Okay, so maybe this is worse than pudding." The ship's defenses powered up, energy flowing through the walls. She raised her hand, the vessel sinking with her pulse. Together they could dismantle the swarm in minutes. But then she felt his eyes on her and turned. You should leave. Leave where? The station? Into space. Do you see me carrying an EVA suit? Her jaw clenched. She could silence him, eject him, let the ship finish the fight without distraction. But for reasons she didn't want to examine, she didn't. Instead, she said, then sit. Stay quiet. And don't touch anything. He sat. He stayed quiet, for about 7 seconds. Then. So, serious question. Does this thing have cup holders or not? She bit back another laugh, eyes fixed on the incoming swarm. And for the first time in far too long, she realized she was no longer alone in the storm. The alarms began at midday cycle, a hollow wail that echoed through the station's ribcage of steel and carbon. At first no one spoke of it. Alarms happened often in a place patched together from 20 different manufacturers' dreams. But this one didn't stop. It repeated, shrill and steady, until conversation in the bazaar died, until even the hawkers of counterfeit star maps and recycled boots fell silent. The air tasted wrong too, dry, faintly metallic. The alien woman knew the signs before anyone else: sabotage. She moved through the crowd without hurry, though it parted around her like oil from water. People lowered their gazes, clutching their belongings tighter. Children tugged behind parents as if she were the danger and not the unseen hand behind the alarm. The weight of their fear pressed down, but she wore it like a cloak. Fear had never broken her. What unsettled her was the sound she heard just ahead, a human voice, talking cheerfully over the sirens. Honestly, I don't get it. You'd think with all this advanced tech someone would invent an alarm that doesn't sound like a dying goat. Or at least give it a melody. Something with a beat, so we could dance while panicking. She found him standing near a sealed maintenance hatch, tapping his boot against the bulkhead in time with the siren. His jacket was half unzipped, hair messy as though he'd just woken up from an ill-timed nap. And still, he smiled. You again, she said, approaching. Me always, he replied. Want to bet this is nothing? Like, some poor intern tripped over a wire. She placed her hand against the hatch. It was warm. Too warm. The air shimmered faintly with heat, and her ears caught the faintest hum of machinery laboring where it should have been silent. No, she said. This is deliberate. That's the worst answer you could have given, he muttered, though he still didn't step back. Okay, deliberate how? Explosives? Angry squirrels? She gave him a flat look. Fine. Not squirrels. The hatch released with a hiss, and the smell of scorched circuits rolled out like smoke. Inside, conduit sparked, wires shredded, a junction panel torn apart by tools, not by accident. She crouched, scanning with her eyes, her ship-trained instincts mapping the damage instantly. Whoever did this hadn't wanted to destroy the station outright, they'd targeted the oxygen recycler. Subtle, slower, crueler. He peered over her shoulder. Well. That's not good. Unless suffocation is in this week's entertainment schedule. She ignored the comment, fingers brushing over the melted edges of a conduit. Her mind ran calculations. Hours before full failure. Less, if the saboteur had planted secondary devices. He crouched beside her, too close. So, do we fix it, or do we file a complaint with management and hope they comp us free dinners before we pass out? Her lips twitched despite the grimness. You talk too much. It's a coping mechanism. Some people drink. I make jokes until the void swallows me. She stood, turning sharply. Come. To where? To stop this. He blinked, then scrambled to follow. Wait, you mean we're the ones who have to save everyone? Shouldn't there be a team for this? A less chatty, more qualified team. Too slow, she said, already striding down the corridor. He jogged to keep pace. You know, when I pictured being a hero, I thought it'd involve capes. Maybe dramatic lighting. Not chasing after saboteurs with the station's most terrifying resident. Do you want to live? She asked. Preferably. Then stop complaining. They descended into the underlevels, a tangle of pipes and conduits that carried the station's lifeblood. Down here the sirens were muted, replaced by the groan of machinery, the hiss of coolant lines, the drip of condensation. Shadows pooled thick in the corners, perfect for hiding. Her eyes scanned every detail, his stumbled from one trip hazard to another. At one junction they found it, a small explosive, no bigger than her palm, strapped to the coolant pipe. The timer ticked silently, red light blinking. She knelt beside it, expression calm. Okay, he whispered, leaning over her shoulder again. So, this is the part where you defuse it, right? Yes. You do know how, right? Yes. You're not just saying yes because you don't want to admit you're guessing, are you? Her silence made him pale. Then she reached out, snapped two wires, and the blinking light went dark. She stood as if it had been nothing. He exhaled so hard he nearly fell over. You could have said that part faster. I aged 5 years watching you think about it. Perhaps now you will be less annoying. Not a chance. They found 2 more devices in quick succession. The saboteur was clever, planting them far apart, knowing fear would spread faster than fire. But with each discovery, the human grew louder in his commentary, jokes spilling from him like steam from a cracked pipe. By the third, she was no longer suppressing her smiles. At last, they reached the reactor auxiliary room, and there he was. The saboteur, crouched before another panel, tools in hand. A man in a technician's jumpsuit, sweat shining on his forehead. He spun when the hatch opened, eyes wide. Don't move, she commanded. He froze, until the human stepped in beside her and ruined the gravity of the moment. Wow, he said. You know, if you're going to sabotage the oxygen filters, the least you could do is leave a manual for how to breathe vacuum. Really inconsiderate. The technician stared, baffled. What? See, I was planning on breathing oxygen all week, and now you're making me reschedule. Do you know how hard it is to cancel plans with my lungs? The saboteur faltered, unsure if this was madness or mockery. It gave her the opening. She stepped forward, wrenched the tool from his hand, and slammed him against the wall in one smooth motion. Why? She asked, her voice a blade. His lip trembled. They said, you don't belong here. You'll bring war to us. I was told if I stopped you. By whom? But he wouldn't answer. Behind her, the human sighed. You know, I was hoping it'd at least be space pirates. Something cool. Not just another idiot with bad wiring. She ignored him, binding the saboteur with a strip of metal torn from the wall. Security could have him. But as she turned back, she caught the human's eyes. He was grinning again, but beneath it was something steadier, something she hadn't noticed before. Not fear, not recklessness, courage, plain and stubborn. He had stayed with her, followed her into danger, faced it without flinching. And for the first time in years, she wondered if perhaps she was not the only one on this station worth fearing. The fleet arrived without warning. One moment the station's viewports showed nothing but the silent expanse of stars, and the next they bloomed with engines like burning suns. Ships slid into formation, dark silhouettes bristling with weapons, their hulls marked with the insignia of factions that had whispered her name for years. They had come not for diplomacy, not for parley, but to drag her back into the chains she had long since broken. The station shuddered as defensive fields snapped to life, but the tremor that ran through the civilians was far greater than the vibration in the walls. Panic spread like fire. Shops sealed, corridors locked down, families pressed together in corners hoping to vanish. She stood at the observation deck, her reflection staring back at her in the glass. Behind her the whispers rose, she's the reason they're here. She ignored them. Accusations were no stranger to her. What she had not expected was the sound of boots pounding up behind her, far too loud, far too uncoordinated to belong to security. "There you are," the human called, sliding slightly as he came to a stop beside her. His hair stuck up in half a dozen directions, his jacket was only half buttoned, and yet he grinned as if an armada wasn't looming just outside. "Wow! You didn't tell me you had this many fans." She tilted her head toward the fleet. "They do not come as admirers." "Oh, I noticed the guns. Hard to miss. But hey, silver lining, we finally have dramatic lighting. Just look at those engines. It's practically cinematic." She almost rolled her eyes. Almost. But the truth pressed heavy in her chest. "They will not leave without me." He glanced at her, the grin softening but not vanishing. "You're not actually planning to just go with them, are you? If I stay, this station will burn." "If you go, you'll burn," he shot back. "Seems like a lose-lose situation. Unless, we come up with something clever. Preferably something that doesn't end with me suffocating or being vaporized." She studied him, trying to reconcile how a man so ordinary could speak so boldly. She had crossed galaxies and faced down warlords, yet this human refused to flinch in the shadow of annihilation. And for reasons she no longer denied, his courage steadied her. Her ship was already stirring in the docking bay, its surface rippling, sensing her need. She turned. "Then we will be clever." Minutes later they were aboard, the vessel humming as it linked to her pulse. The walls glowed faintly, alive with energy. The human buckled himself into the co-pilot's seat, backward at first, before sheepishly correcting. "You've done this before, right?" he asked, tightening the straps. "Countless times," she said. "Good. Because my flight experience is limited to bumper carts at a festival, and I lost at those." The ship detached, drifting free of the station. Instantly the fleet shifted, ships locking weapons, targeting her like predators surrounding prey. Her vessel responded, shields flaring to life, weapons extending from hidden folds of its skin. The human whistled. "Okay, that's impressive. Mine just has a broken cup holder. Speaking of which, does this thing? No. Worth a shot." The first salvo came fast, beams of energy cutting across the void, missiles spiraling like angry wasps. Her ship moved with her thought, dodging, weaving, firing back with lances of light that shattered enemy drones. The human clutched his seat as the vessel banked sharply. "Just so you know," he yelled over the roar, "if I throw up, that's not fear, it's physics." She almost smiled, even in the chaos. But there were too many. For every ship destroyed, another closed in. The fleet had prepared for her, studied her vessel, calculated its limits. Alone, she could not outlast them. Then the human did something absurd. He leaned forward, jabbing at a console he didn't understand, pointing at the swarm of smaller enemy craft. "What if we don't fight all of them?" he said. "What if we make them fight each other?" She frowned. "Explain." "Well, they're different factions, right? Different commanders, different egos. All you have to do is, encourage them to believe one of the others fired first." Her mind raced. It was reckless. It was insane. It was possible. She extended her will through the ship, reshaping its energy signatures, projecting false signals into the void. Moments later, one frigate's sensors registered a shot from its supposed ally. That was all it took. Suspicion flared into accusation, accusation into fire. The fleet cracked apart, commanders shouting over one another, ships exchanging fire even as some still targeted her. The human laughed, wild and breathless. "Would you look at that? We're not the main act anymore, we're just the opening band." Seizing the moment, she drove the ship through the chaos, weaving between dueling vessels until the stars opened before them. The blockade broke. The fleet, too busy turning on itself, could not pursue. Silence filled the cabin as the weapon's fire faded behind them. The human sagged back in his seat, gasping, his grin still intact. Well, that was fun. Terrifying, but fun. 10 out of 10 would nearly die again. She regarded him, the weight of their survival pressing down. You saved us. He shook his head. No. You saved us. I just made things messier. She studied him for a long moment. Once, she had been the embodiment of fear, a shadow cast across worlds. Now, because of him, she was something else too. Someone who could laugh. Someone who could trust. They returned to the station hours later. Its people watched her differently now. No longer only with fear, but with awe, with cautious gratitude. Whispers still followed her, but they had changed. She did not walk alone through the corridors anymore. He was there, talking too loudly, cracking jokes about how heroics should come with free meal vouchers. One evening, on the observation deck, the storms of the gas giants swirling below them, she turned to him. You are not afraid of me. Nope, he said. Still not. Though I am afraid of your cooking. Whatever that was last night, it fought back. She gave him a rare smile. You are a fool. True. But I'm your fool. For the first time in years, she let the mask slip, just a little. She laughed, quiet, genuine. And as the station orbited endlessly above the planet, the woman once feared across galaxies stood not as a specter of dread, but as something new. Not alone. Not chained by whispers. Beside her was a human too stubborn to fear, too reckless to leave, and too earnest to let her forget what she had almost lost, the simple, dangerous, liberating act of trust. And together, they watched the storms rage on, no longer afraid of what came next.